Just got the Nogi Judo book here. Just came in the post. Second hand, but very good. Looks almost new. 2008. Yeah, and it's got oh, it won't let me hold this. There we go. It's got Neil Melanson, and is currently one of the best Nogi teachers. Yeah, one of the absolute best. So that's cool, you know. But this is like early days. I mean, yeah. So it's kind of bits I wouldn't necessarily say was pure Ludo. It's Ludo plus bits and bobs, you know. Tiny bit of strikes, a tiny bit of punch, or you know, it's bits. It's not pure, you know, just Ludo. It's you know, bits of Western wrestling, bits of you know, punching, or you know. So yeah, but it's good. It's not gonna be pure with, obviously, you know, with being MMA, or as I like to call it, AIM. Because I like to say things backwards, because I do. Because people have always talked confusing to me, so I did it back. I think that's how I started using reverse words. So, Nogi, Ludo. Let's write it down. Nogi Ludo. Yeah. So, it's got throws. Yeah. And TDs. Throws, TDs. Yeah. Ground game. Niwaza. So, yeah. If it becomes, you know, 100% stand up or 99% up with the stand up rule in Ludo, then you end up losing two phases, the transition. You lose the transition phase as well from standing to ground, where you, again, this is where the mats might need to become slightly softer, is you sort of land on them again, another striking technique. So as well as throwing, when you land into the pin or the hold position, the hold down or the pinning position. So there's transition and there's ground work, so you lose the two phases. But again, it might be looking at making them slightly softer or whatever. Yeah, for longevity. Because the big issue is the head, the neck, and you know, concussion again from it, because it's a strike. You know, so maybe either softer mats or softer takedowns, one or the other, or can keep people doing what they're doing and just get injuries all over the place, left, right, and centre. So those are the choices there. It might be this as well again, because of the sort of modus operandi is always well, that's the way it's done, so that's why we'll always do it. which is not Kano Jigoro's philosophy, you know. So if it's not working, then maybe slightly modify it rather than just, this convention. So if we go back to the book, and this does affect the nogi holding techniques, if we go back to the book, it obviously has the hand wraps and the gloves. So again, this will affect things, which again is, as far as I can see, just done for convention, because there is no actual reason for hand wraps and gloves other than just convention. Yeah, they make no sense. They're counter-intuitive, counterproductive. That's the word, counterproductive. Yeah, they just hinder. They do nothing other than, as I say, conform with convention. There's no reason for it. I think it's convention, but also it looks cool. People think it looks cool. So maybe an entertainment value, but again, that's not a practical value. So it makes no sense. That's just stuff normal people like. Also, they like Instagram. They definitely do. Normal people like those stuffs, those sites. That's not a site, that's just a technique they do, but it seems a bit, again, it's not my culture, but just from a observational viewer's point of view, it looks superficial. The normal culture, whether it's the nightclubs, the dating, the dressing up in the clothes, whatever it is, from an outsider's perspective, from an observer's point of view, it looks superficial. But again, I'm not, the expert, and it's not my culture. So, who knows? Who knows? Normal people culture is not mine. Culture, as was made very clear to me on many occasions in quite an aggressive way. So, there you go. Anyway, forget that. Let's go back to the no game. Let's go back to Ludo. So, yeah, the gloves hinder, and then in nogi the distance between the practitioners is less with the grips, obviously, because you can't hold at fist length grip because you haven't got a clothing to grab onto, costume to grab onto. So shooting from the open is a long distance technique with no gi. Shooting from the open, yeah. Or maybe if someone just has long arm or something, or also hand, you can do like wrist control or hand gripping the hand or the fingers, like a palm to palm, like a, what's it called, knuckles game. So you can do that. If you get hands length, you're gripping the hand or the wrist, that can be a longer length technique for a no-gi scenario. Yeah, and again, shooting from the open, that's a long range no-gi technique. But again, those are just concepts. I think it's trial and error, really, isn't it? It's trial and error and experimentation to see what happens. It's not 100. What do they say? It's more of an art than a science, not an exact science, something like that. With sparring chaos, it'll never look clean technique. So, again, more of an art than a science. But it's the term martial arts, or as I like to call it, marble arch. Yeah. martial arts. MMA. Anyway. So, yeah, I think trial and error. I'll just trial and error and experimentation to see what happens, see what works, rather than 100% rigidity and set in stone. And reduce pressure, say semi-pressure. So again, this enough to give you a bit of workout, but not so much as to go bananas and end up causing injuries. So yeah. So Ludo is not, and I'll go back to, but it's not a pure system really. So it's more of a mixed system. It's more of a hybrid system than it is. I'm gonna say it's more of a mixed system, yeah, than a Japanese pure system. And having said that, yes, the Japanese like their turning techniques again, which the concept is very odd, the turning technique, because you're giving up your back. But never mind, they like it, and they like their turning techniques. So yeah, and they're sort of harai, they're sort of like turning with the leg, and the Seanagi too and things. But yeah, so it's a hybrid system because you've got Katagaruma, and you've got Kata Ashidori. Yeah. So that's single leg. You've got Murati Gari. You've got heel trip or ankle pick. Ankle pick. Double leg. Double. Double leg. Ankle. Ankle pick. Single leg. Fireman's lift or takedown or carry, which Kano saw in Western wrestling and incorporated it into the gi. So it went reverse. We always think of it transferring gi to no gi. It can also go this way. It can go that direction too. Can adapt it with gi grips, which is what looks like could have happened. Yeah. So these are all Western wrestling techniques. Right. Then there's stuff from Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, Triple J. Yeah, there's stuff from Mongolian folk style wrestling, potentially, you know, possible interaction. And there's Shuai Jiao and Chin. Yeah. And Sumo. Sumo is very, very ancient, so yeah. And there's also taijutsu, ninjutsu, and aikijutsu, the grandparent of aikido, aikijutsu. So it can have all these styles in, yeah. Definitely sumo. There's definitely sumo, and there's overlap with Triple J and with ninjutsu, taijutsu, yeah, and aikijutsu. So it could have elements of, definitely it's got sumo. Yeah, China possibly from trade contact there. Yeah, Shuai Jiao again perhaps, and folk style Mongolian wrestling. Yeah, but for definite sumo and Triple J and taijutsu is it's an old unarmed system in Japan. So and Aiki perhaps it's got some elements there. Yeah, so again here, I'm not sure on ninjutsu, don't know, but jujutsu and there, and then possibly some Chinese grappling as well, Mongolian and Chinese grappling. So yeah, so I'll just put maybe a star by the ones that I know, asterisk, sorry, not a star, asterisk by the ones that I would be saying 100%, you know, there and there, yeah, and then there, I don't. There's very likely, because they went all over the show. So very likely cross trading technique there. Yeah. Um, so it's again it's a hybrid system here, really, to be honest. Although they did, with the like around the LG ban, they tried to make it Japaneseified, which ironically I would say just makes people use more strength, because the less number of techniques you use, the more you have to power it. You know, so yeah, so it's got Western wrestling and then old Japanese and then other Asian stuff, and catch wrestling is from backwards. So catch wrestling is not pure, although I thought it was. But it's not looking like it was a pure Western system. So I can't find it. Can't find the page. There we go. Catch wrestling. So catch wrestling is, I would say, not a pure Western system, although I originally felt like it could have been. It's actually again a hybrid style. So if you read up, it may say that definitely by the 1500s and possibly by the end of the 1400s somewhere, from trading on boats when the boat technology in the West got to advance to a point where they could travel higher speed. They may have got Asian techniques again from Japan or China and so there are Eastern techniques. So you can see in some of the joint locks, like Triple J, yeah. So and possibly Chinatu. So it's not a purely Western system, but absolutely there are Western techniques in it. There's the leg grabs, there's the double, the single, there's the body lock, and it's a very all-rounder system. So rather than say Greco-Roman versus freestyle, where you've got one can do the legs and one can just do upper body and be more strength style, picking up and stuff. but this is an all-round system, so it's got the body locks like the Greco-Roman-esque, you know, clinching, the nogi clinching, Greco-Roman related, but then it's also got the freestyle from like legs, like takedowns and things, and then it's also got, say, technical from and joint locking and things. There was Fiore, there was medieval wrestling, but whether it's more developed, the locks in the East, I don't know. There does seem to be a lot of variety, especially in China. That, you know, I think in the West maybe there was more an emphasis on weapons. In Cali, Filipino Cali is like that. Yeah, maybe because the weapons is, multiply your power. So I don't know, but Achille Morozo in the 1500s, yes, there was lots of locking and things. So I don't know. There was no tiger fist. There was no like using your nails to rip off tree bark and using chi pow and things in the Western joint locks, or even in Japanese jiu-jitsu. So that one is unique to Kung Fu, with the exception maybe of ancient yoga or combat yoga, which is a people would call Wu, which is kind of I very like mystical stuff. So, but there's a slight overlap with the ancient combat yoga with the Chinese Kung Fu, in terms of technicality and prana or chi. Yeah. So again, important not to impose any Western misconceptions or projections and say that they said this about this or that they made it, when they didn't. So, or if they did, that's fair enough. But if they didn't, then it's important not to project. So, again, a hybrid system of Eastern and Western technique. Interestingly, because of convention, so in Ludo can't do the wrist lock, leg lock, finger grab, but but you can do a big takedown and smash someone with a takedown. So it's gone not to do with safety, it's to do with convention. Yeah, and to do with the fact that the Kosen guys were beating the stand-up guys in the 1920s, and people didn't like it, so they made the stand-up rule. That's really what it was. Yeah. And ironically, then ended up disappearing a lot of the groundwork to the point where a lot of people, it's 90% stand-up, and there's apparently players, not just one or two. There's apparently, could call it a large manor if you want, of where they just won't do any ground technique because of there's such a heavy emphasis on stand-up. They just don't bother at all. Just do pure stand-up, which doesn't make sense because the emphasis on So yeah. So again, it's convention. It's not safety. If it was safety, you wouldn't allow people taking people down and doing concussions. It's not safety. It's convention. Right? It's their loss anyway with the Kosen because they fobbed off the Kosen guys and then they go to Brazil and BJJ gets offended and takes off like a big rocket. So there you go. Their loss is others' gain. So yeah, daft, but there you go. And I understand maybe they were worried about the stand-up, disappearing, but that backfired in a way, didn't it? But never mind. You could say the goal would be 50-50, but it's probably impossible to get 50-50. So, in the same way as you can't do leg locks and wrist locks in Ludo, you can't do chokes in Western wrestling, catch as catch can, and sambo. So the rules dictate everything in the same way as badminton and tennis. Have a sort of an object that flies through the air that you hit, and they both have rackets. So you both hit a flying thing through the air, and you both have rackets, but actually they're quite different, and the physics is different, even though it's both rackets and both hitting an object. In the same way, rules dictate a lot. So if you can't do chokes, then you can do face crushes, tooth crunches, jaw locks, compression on the face or the head compression, things like this. Yeah, you come up. It can increase creativity because you think within a thing, and then you have to think of lots of mini sub styles or mini sub techniques. Yeah. Anyway, so the rules dictate. It doesn't mean that this system is better than this system. It just means the rules dictate everything about it. Just like, as I say, with tennis and badminton or any other sport you can think of, the rules can make it completely different. So again, it isn't not banned for safety. Otherwise, you would be allowing people to do big takedowns and smash people. It's not safety. It's convention and rule set. Rule set dictates everything. Yeah. So I'll just run through a bit of Ludo safety again, or reiterate that basically either slightly softer so either you want slightly softer mats, if it clears the picture, there we go, or you want softer, slightly you want either going to reduce, just like in HEMA when you spar with sharps or semi-sharps, you're going to have to reduce the force that the power that you perform the technique at, or just ruin your body. So either reduce the throw force or reduce the hardness of the mat slightly. If you want it safer, if you want to wreck your body, do that. But if you want it, there's a balance always, isn't there, between realism and just wrecking your body. So that's what I see as the problem, and concussions in judo because of the throws being a strike, and also because of the very outmoded, just pure convention, pure almost fashion in a way. It makes no sense. So need an overhaul of the system, of the way of the an overhaul of the safety system to improve it, because it's pretty. I see it's kind of pathetic. So I'm sorry to say it, but watching people get hurt and people behave like idiots, it's ridiculous. So it needs an overhaul of the safety system. Yeah. I think I just call it observational IQ if you want. There's a word I invent. Not academic IQ, observational IQ. Yeah, my word I invented. So I just observe things, and things just jump out at me. Again, like a 3D cinema with the glasses. So it's one of the things that jumps out at me. There's just incompetence, idiocy. Maybe just people just don't notice things. Certain things people just don't notice. I certainly notice. Yeah. So yeah. Um, and what else? So the energy. Let's talk about the energy for a minute with Star Wars late 70s and so the energy in these three cases are it comes out of nowhere and then it's very very high density and then it sort of fades again. So in a very short time the amount of chi that is being used is being used the distribution in a very high density instead of low density. So and it comes out of nowhere like a well, maybe like a plant growing out of the ground. The energy it just comes out of, and then people study it for a long time after in a very low density way. So the energy goes low density, and they study it, and then something else comes out of nowhere, like magic, if you like. Yeah, that's how the energy works. It just happens. Yeah, it's not you know, it's not your bog standard sort of 9 to 5. No disrespect to anyone who does that. That's fine. There's people that can do that, that can't do creativity, and that no one needs to have a go at them, and vice versa. They don't need to have a go at creative people. There's people that can't do the 9 to 5 that are creative, and vice versa. Yeah. So horses for cause. People need to let people do, what technique works for them. Yeah. It just absolutely just like the 1519 campaign. Yeah, with the conquistadors. Right. Even though it was horrendously grisly, we won't go into how negative energy that became because it'll make people depressed. But the energy, chi energy, comes out thin air. It just happens. It's just happened. It's very UHD, ultra high density, and then it's gone. There's no really way of explaining this. This is what the energy tells me. Yeah. Intuition. A bit like maybe call it an extra sense or something. And if it's like say if someone's colorblind or whatever, missing something, then you can't really. I'm not sure I can describe it, but this is how the energy works itself. Yeah. Yeah. It's just like an explosion. It's just from nothing, bang, and then after, and then something new comes along. Yeah. And it's a graph. It's exponential. So the energy is like sort of goes slow, 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 and then goes up, and then tails off. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm dyscalculic, so I'm crap at math, so I can't do it great. But you get what I mean. It's an extra. It's sort of slow, slow point, slow, then rockets off, then levels out, and then drops off again. So it's a exponential curve or something like that. Yeah, in my very dyscalculate way of explaining it, but you get what I mean. I hope the energy it's how it expresses itself, like the Flavian Amphitheatre or the El Arena. So the one in the Gladiator film from 2000 is the North African Colosseum. It's about 100 foot tall. It's the biggest surviving amphitheatre. And then there's the Flavian Amphitheatre, the one that everyone knows about. Yeah, in Rome. Yeah. So, with the gladiators, the energy came up, just like with ancient Rome, with the civilization, the energy came up, peaked, and then the corruption, it dropped off. And when it dropped off with corruption, it was a very, very slow rot. It was a slow rot of decline. Yeah, very low density, just rotted and rotted and rotted until there was nothing left. And internal corruption played a big part in that, absolutely. Yeah. But the energy shows itself. And probably by hanging onto it forever, you can't. It becomes like a dead tree, a dead zombie, whatever. You can't. It's water. It's flowing water. This energy, the way that it just comes out of here, and it's just it magically appears, and then it has to be a new thing, and you have to let that new thing happen. So you can't rigidly hold on to the old one too much. It's just there. It's not there, and then it's there, and then it's off. It's gone off, and then the new one comes along. Just let the new one come along. It's flowing water to keep the stagnation off. That's what the energy does. It just explodes almost. Yeah. So I don't know how much storage I have on this. I hope I'm alright. I've got a cap, bill cap, so it won't go over. So, my colleague says it's too chaotic, the video structure, which is fair enough, but it's just the way my brain operates, so I'm not really sure what I can do with that. If I had a Q&A session, people could ask me stuff and I could try and inform them about whether it's pyramids or anything really. Autism, I don't know. When people talk rubbish about DA editing, and I don't mean rubbish as in, I don't mean as in like, they attack it. What I mean is like, they just say daft things, like my cousin's brother, sister's got it, or just idiocy. So, like, well, some of the so-called liberalist people, have been the nastiest for my past experience. Some of, not all, but some of. So, I'm always wary of that. So, I'd rather people just didn't say stupid stuff, or they'll say that they're, grandkids, nephews, uncle, or some idiocy, that just winds me up. I'd rather they just didn't say it. I know they will, but it's again a fashion statement. When you have it, it's not a fashion statement. It's something you're stuck with. Yeah, so it's not a fashion statement. What to do about storage, I don't know, other than just delete videos that are old that then no one can watch. I think I enjoy the process, and even if 3 people are looking at it and think I'm a crazy person, then I don't really care, as long as I've talked about the energy and got it out a bit. Yeah, I don't know how to explain about the chi energy there, but it's just what it communicates to me. But yeah, overhaul there. Yeah, because it is getting daft. So, over and out.